Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to another video where I will be showing a solve of one of my own puzzles. This one's going to be a little bit different. In this video I'm going to be solving a puzzle that I created quite recently. This is my puzzle called Trench Run. It is, I believe, the sixth puzzle in my series where I'm exploring the diagonal constraint. This is probably the penultimate puzzle in the series, and in this puzzle I've actually been asked to do this video. Normally I wait a few days after the puzzle has gone out to do my video to see what the feedback is, but the testers have done this and I've spoken to them about it, and different testers are finding different things. And because of that, I've been asked to do this video and to show what is actually going on. So this one's going to be a little bit different. First of all, I would like to thank the people who have done the initial testing on this puzzle. The people I would like to thank are Ambrose, Vitorino, John Zailran, and Joseph Neme. Have also have the people who have provided testing and feedback on this puzzle. Only one of which has found my intended break-in. There is another break-in that is possible on this puzzle. And what I will be doing is I'll be providing links in the description where you can attempt this puzzle for yourself. And then after you have done the puzzle, or if you choose to, you can watch the video and see what the intended break-in is. But I'm also going to show the break-in that most of the testers are finding, and then I will show the intended break-in. The testers are mostly finding a break-in that I think is a fair bit more, is quite a lot more complex, and I will try and show that break-in. I don't really follow it that well, and then I will reset the puzzle after that break-in and I will show it with the intended break-in. Like with many of my puzzles, I've only done it after the break-in a couple of times to make sure it was unique. The break-in is the interesting bit. I make sure that it solves, and then I release it to the wild and get other people to confirm that it's as good as I thought it was, and that's what I have gotten back. Also, because this puzzle has math in it, I do use a calculator to assist me. Rather than have you sit here and watch me struggle with numbers, I think it's much more interesting to watch me work on the logic of the puzzle rather than just do math in my head. So I will be using an online tool to assist me with this. Once again, because people tell me to, I will say if you like the video, please like. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe. But of course, there is no requirement to do so. So this is Trench Run, so named because I thought it looked a little bit like the lack of cages in the middle made it look a little bit like the Death Star trench. So the way this works is normal Sudoku rules apply, which means in every box, row, and column, the digits must 1 to 9 must exist without repetition. This is a diagonal, which means that along the blue diagonals, the digits 1 to 9 must not repeat. So they must contain the digits 1 to 9 without repetition. This is a killer Sudoku, which means that within these cages, the digits within the cage must sum to the digit given in the top corner of the cage. So the digits in this cage will sum to 24. The digit in this cage will sum to 10. This cage has no number and may sum to a digit that is unknown. This is mostly provided for the symmetry of the puzzle. So they're the rules of the puzzle. And now I will attempt to show you the break-in that most people do. I struggle with this one because it is not as easy in my opinion. So what most people seem to focus on is they see these 15 cages in the corner and they identify that 15 must be done with either 6, 9 or 7, 8, and they put a 6, 7, 8, 9 into those boxes. They do recognize that the 6, 7, 8, 9 being in the corners means that each of those must be unique. The next thing they identify is that the 16 and the 24 here means that this sums to 40. So these two cells must sum to 5, so they must be 1, 2, 3, 4. These cells here sum to 40, so these cells must sum to 5, so they must be 1, 2, 3, 4. If this is 1, 2, 3, 4, you cannot have 4 and 4 in an 8 cage, so that can't be a 4. So this is going to be 7, 6, or 5 to go with a 1, 2, 3. This 11 can't be a 1 because you can't have 1 and 10. So this is going to be 9, 8, or 7 to go with the 11. This is going to be the same in this 11. It's going to be 9, 8, and 7 with the 2, 3, 4. And this 10 is going to be 9, 8, 7, or 6 to go with a 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to 10. What they then notice is along this diagonal, there is a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple, meaning 6 must go in one of those two cells, which takes 6 out of there, which takes 9 out of there. Now, what that does, and I'm trying to remember this, actually I'm not sure that is needed. What they then discover is because you've taken, is it that? You've taken 1 out of here, and these must sum to 5, remember. Because you take 1 out of here, you take 4, you take 4 out of here. If you take 4 out of here, you take 6 out of here. And what you've got now is in these 3 cells, and remember these 4 are like the ones in the corner, they see each other. This is a 7, 8, 9 triple. So you can take 7 out of there. When you take 7 out of there, you can take 1 out of there. Taking 1 out of there takes 4 out of there. 4 out of there takes 7 out of there. Now, what is the next step that people find? I was shown this once and I'm trying to remember it. I'm trying to remember it. 6 must be in one of those, so 6 can't be there either, which means that can't be 9, but I don't think that's it. 7, 8, 9 triple along this diagonal, but that's okay. Ah, 2 and 3. 6 needs to, no, that's correct. 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3, 2, 3 and 4. Yeah, I'm going to stop this, but there is a way that is then locked down with all of this. I can't remember what it is. As I said, this was not my intended break-in, but it is possible to whittle down. I'm sure there's something here that I'm missing. To whittle down these values and actually lock in what these are. And I think it's using a restriction on these diagonals so they can put some values in and then use some of these cages to lock things in and then get a restriction somewhere. That was not my intended path. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, this flows and you can start whittling down some digits, but that was not what was intended. I'm going to restart the puzzle, and now I'm going to show you my intended break-in. So my intended break-in, so starting again, it does involve understanding that this is 40 and these must sum to 5, and that this is 40 and that these must sum to 5. However, more importantly, you've got 80 here and 80 here. But if you add these cages in as well, so what you have is 80, 90, 98 plus 22 is 120. If you then remove this cage and this cage, two cages that sum to two full cages. A cage will contain all the digits 1 to 9, summing to 45. So if you remove two full, boxes, not cages. If you remove two full boxes, you've removed 90. Removing 90 from 120 leaves you with 30. These all see each other, either horizontally or diagonally or vertically, which means they cannot have repetition. And there is only one way to make a 4 digits equal 30 without repetition, and they are 6, 7, 8, and 9. In this cage, you cannot have an 8 or a 9, so this becomes a 6 or a 7. This must be a 1 or a 2. These must sum to 5, so this immediately must be a 3 or a 4. For this to sum up, this can no longer be a 6 because your 6 needs a 5, and it can no longer be a 9 because a 9 needs a 2. So this is a 7 or an 8. We can now look at these totals and go, if this is a 7, this is a 1, this becomes a 4, but if this is a 4, this also needs to be a 7. So you cannot put a 7 in this top box. This becomes a 6, this becomes a 2, these need to sum to 5, so that becomes a 3, and that becomes an 8. Because these four all see each other, we can remove 6 and 8 from those. We now know for this 7, 9, this will have to be 1 and 3 in order to hit 10, but there's a 3 there. That becomes a 1, that becomes a 9, that becomes a 7, that becomes a 4, and we've locked in those digits as the first thing you get in the grid. But now we can look at these 15 cages. So this 15 cage is either 7, 8 or 9, 6, but it can't be 7, 8 anymore. This is 9, 6. This one can't be 9, 6 anymore. So this is 7, 8. Down here, or over here, it's got to be 9, 6 because it can't be 7, 8. And over here, it's got to be 7, 8. And we've locked in the corners. And these see each other. The next thing to identify is there is an 8 in one of those two cells looking across here. You cannot put an 8 in a 3-cell 10 cage because it'd have to go with two 1s. So there is an 8 in one of those two cells looking down at this 7, 8, making that a 7, that an 8. This 7 looks up here, making that an 8, and that a 7. And all of a sudden, we are very quickly starting to fill in this major diagonal. Now we have, there's a couple of interesting twists happening here. So we have the situation where 8 and 8 have to be in one of those 3 cells, but they cannot be here because it would have to be 8 too. So we lock 8 into one of those. 7 is in one of those 3 cells, but I'm not sure how we lock that down. What we can do is we can reduce this. Now we know there is an 8 in this 30 cage. So any option for 30, and I'm just doing this in my calculator, that doesn't involve an 8, we can remove. We also know that this 10 cage can't have a 5 in it, so we have to put a 5 in there. So any option for that 30 cage that does not have a 5 can also get removed. And that leaves us with several options. I've got, as I said, on a separate sheet. It leaves us with 15789, 25689, or 45678. So this 10 in 3 can't use 8, 6, or 9. I don't think that reduces much. This 10 in 3 can't use 6, 7, or 9, which reduces a little bit more. It means there must be a 5 in this cage. It must be 1, 4, 5, or 2, 3, 5. 1, 4 could be there with a 5 maybe. And this 14 cage can't have a 7, 8, or 9 in it, which only leaves us with one option. This is 3, 5, and 6, because every other option requires a 7, an 8, or a 9 in a 14 cage. That makes this a 1, 2, or a 4. Can't put a 4 there, so that puts a 4 in here. We now have a 4 up here with the 5 in the 10 cage. So this must be 1, 4, 5. And we know that's the 5 because there is a 1 and a 4 looking at it, and this becomes a 1, 4 pair. We now have 1, 4, 1, 4. We can take, this now has to be 1, 4 because we've got 1, 4 there, 1, 4 there, 1, 4 must go down here. So this becomes a 2. And we're starting to lock values into cages quite effectively. One thing I forgot to do, this 7, there must be, if 7 must appear in this box. If 7 was to be in the 10 cage, then it would be 7, 3, and we can't put a 3 in the 10 cage. So the 7 must go into the 30 cage, and it cannot go in those two cells. So this is 5, 7, 8. So that does two things. First of all, it restricts the options down to only 1, 5, 7, 8, 9, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in here. But 7 is now here and here, which means 7 must go in one of those two cells, but there is a 7 looking at that, so we put a 7 in here. Once there is a 7 in a 3-cell 10 cage, that becomes a 1, 2. We now must put a 2 up here. We're starting to get some more restriction on this diagonal, and we should look at that at some point. Now, in here, we're either going to have 1, 9, or 4, 6, because 5, 7, and 8 are in here. We cannot put a 1 there, so this cannot be a 9. This cannot be a 6, so this cannot be a 4. So we've got a 6, 9 here and a 1, 4 here. This cannot be a 5, so there must be a 5 in there, which means there must be a 5 in one of those three. I'm not sure how much that's going to help us. 1, 2, 3. So 3, 6, and 8 go into those. Can't put an 8 there, there's one in the box. Can't put an 8 there, so we put an 8 slap bang in the middle, and this becomes a 3, 6, but there's a 6, 9 in the box. So that becomes a 3. That becomes a 6. We can take 6 out of the 3, 5, and we've got a 3, 5 in the 14 cage. So this is already locked in. We now know what this is. The missing digits are 8 and 2, and we've got 2, 8 locked into this box. And as you can see, once you've found this break-in, with these 4 cages, whereas I was fumbling around trying to find digits earlier, this actually collapses fairly well. There are a few more tricks to find. Some of the other stuff that will happen, particularly around these, the trench, which you'll notice has nothing in it at all, and around these cages, which have lots of options, that still has to grow. So the digits we don't have in here is 3, 4, and 5. Not sure what we've got restricted there. We cannot put a 3 in there. So what is next? I'm actually going to mark these diagonals now, because we do have 6, 7, 8, 9 on them. So these have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we can't, and it's basically the same on this diagonal because we've got 6, 7, 8, and 9. So these also have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pardon me again. Now, if we look on this diagonal, the only digits on the diagonal here are 1 and 4. 1, 2, and 4. So 3 and 5 must appear on those. So we can take 3 and 5 out of those. Sorry. Now, once we take 3 and 5, because we can't have them in those 3 cells or in those 3 cells, once we take 3 and 5 out of those, there is a 2, 4 looking at that cell, and it becomes a 1, meaning we can take 1 out of all of those. We can take the 3 out of this one because there's a 3 looking at it. And we know that there must be a 5 in one of those. I'm not sure. 2 is not here. 3, 5. What can I take out of that? Oh, I can take 1 and 2 out of that because of the 1, 2 down here. There's no 4 there. It is possible I am missing something. But what I'm going to do now is we know that this 24 cage now must have an 8 in it. So I'm going to go over to my calculator and I'm going to remove all options for 24 that do not have an 8. Okay. Now I'm going to look at the options here. So I can't use a 1, so it can be 2. Can't use 3, 4, 5. 6 I can use, 7 I can use. So this is 2, 6, 7 or 9, and this column must contain a 2 and a 7 because the 6 and the 9 is up there. I can't put a 2 into there because of that too. This column has got 6, 9 with 3 and 5. And the 5 was already marked. And the 3 must also be in there, and I can take 3 out of the bottom. So I'm missing something a little bit more obvious about the flow of this puzzle. I mean, 8 is pointing in there, but I'm not sure that's going to help me. Where does 2 go on this diagonal? It must go in one of those 2, so I can take 2 out of there. Because if I put 2 there, I would not be able to put 2 anywhere on that diagonal. These are locked, these are locked, these are locked. So 8, I can't use 1 or 4. So in this 24 cage, I can remove any option that uses 1 or 4. That only leaves me with 2 options. So the only options for the 24 cage are 2, 5, 8 and 9, or 3, 6, 7 or 8. So 2, 5, 8, 9 or 3, 6, 7, 8. So it'll be 2, 5, 9. Actually, this is restricted, so I'm going to blow these away and put them in directly. So if it was a 2, if I then put a 5 in, it would have to be there, and if I put a 9 in, it would have to be there. And if it was 3, 6, 7, 7 could go there, 7 could go there, 3 could only go there, and 6 could go there. So that's a bit more restricted than I had before. I'm going to do the same on this 16 cage because based on the results that I had, if this is 2, 5, 9, the options I have left are, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, no, not 4, 3, 6 and 7. And if it was 3, 6, 7, it would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. So if it's 3, 6, 7, 7 goes there, and they become 3, 6. And if it's 2, 5, 9, 2 goes there, and that's 5, 9. That's a 3, 5 pair. So I can take 5 out of those. I'm sure I'm missing something. Oh, there's no 5 up there because of that 5. I really do understand the break-ins of my puzzle better than puzzles better than I understand the other bits. 1, 4, 5, 9. So 1, 4, 5, 9. That might matter because the 9 must go there. So there's no 9 there. What am I missing? And I hope people aren't too bored watching my videos. I really do. So I shouldn't be this stuck. Other people have solved this. I've solved this. Hmm. 7 must be in here. 3 must be in here. Because 3 there and 3 there. I'm fairly sure it's not anything across the middle trench. These are 6, 7, 8 and 9, and you cannot put 8 in there. Right, of course, that is a 6, 7, 9 triple, taking 6, 9. I was wrong. Taking 6, 9 out of there, giving me a 3, 5 pair, taking 3, 5 out of there, making that a 6, 9, giving me a 6, 9 pair. Is this it? It puts 7 in one of those two, taking 7 out of there. 7 in one of those two means that this is not a 7. I'm really struggling with the keyboard commands today. This has restricted this more, maybe. So the 16, 367, 259, the 32, 589, 3, 6, 8, 7, no. Oh, 679 is looking at that. That becomes a 2. That becomes a 7. That is not a 7. Once you've got 8, 2 in the 24 cage, it must be 8, 2, 5, and 9. It was all of this, which I should have done earlier. I am sorry, everyone. This becomes a 6. This takes 6 out of here. This makes this not a 9, which trying to remember. 2 and 3 come out of the middle. So this becomes a 4, 5. We've got a 3, 4, 5 on the diagonal, so that has to be a 2. I'm not sure that's it. There is a 4, 5 on this diagonal, so that becomes a 3. That 4, 5 is looking up here, making that a 1 and that a 4. Looking down here, making that a 2 and that a 1, which makes that a 4 and that a 1. That 4 takes the 4 out of there. We've got a 9 here looking up here, making that 6 and that 9. That 9 is looking down here, making that 6 and that 9. Looking up here, making that a 6, which makes that a 4, which gives us a 5 in the middle. Yep, standard complex Sudoku system. That takes 6 out of those. We've now got 7, 9 here, which puts 8 here and 6 here. We can now take 8 out of here, so 8 must go in the top because we'd locked 8 into those two positions. We've now got everything in this row except 1, and we've now got 1 and 8 in the 30 cage, which means that there must be 1, 5, 7, 8, 9. So these have to be 1, 5, 7. There is a 1 and a 7 in that column already, so that becomes a 5. And we can take 5, no, I've got that wrong. 1, 5, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to roll that back because I typed that in wrong. So this has got a 1, so it's 1, 5, 7, 8, 9. Do it correctly. I can take, there's no 5 there, there's no 9 there. That's a 7. So I can take 7 out of there, and this becomes a 5, 9, which I could have got by just looking at the row. There is a 9 looking up at it, making that a 5 and that a 9. This becomes a 3, 4 because that's all that's missing from the column. But there's a 4 looking at it, so that becomes a 3. That becomes a 4. I can take a 4 out of there. There is a 4 looking down at that 5, so that becomes a 1. That 5 makes that a 3, which makes that a 4. That 3 looks across here, making that a 5, making that a 3, which I could have got by looking at the diagonal. All that's missing from this box now is 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This 5 is saying that that is the 2, that is the 5. This 2 is looking across, making that an 8 and that the 2. I will now fill in all of these triples, and now we will attempt to start the trench run. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can take 2 out of there, 5 out of there, 4 out of there. This is 3, 6, and 7. I can take 3 out of there and 6 out of there. 1, 8, and 9. That is not a 1. That is not an 8. 2, 6, and 7. That is not a 2. That is not a 2. That is not a 6. This is 5, 8, and 9. There is a 5, 8 looking down at that, making that a 9. I can take those out. That 9 is looking up, making that a 1, and I can take 1 out of there. And at the very bottom, I can go 1, 3, and 4. There are 2 1s already, so that becomes a 1. I take the 1 out of there. The 4 makes that a 3, which makes that a 4, makes that a 2, makes that a 5, makes that a 4. There is a 2 looking down, making that a 7, making that a 6, making that a 2. The 6 is looking up, making that a 7, making that a 3, making that a 6. The 7 is looking down, making that a 9, making that a 7. The 9 makes that an 8, makes that a 9. The 8 looks down, making that a 5. And we finish the trench run by putting in the 8. And that is how you, I don't know, blow up the Death Star. So yes, I'm a bit surprised that people found a break-in that doesn't use the 120. I have found it myself. I find it a little bit more of a struggle, but it is there by filling out all of these cages and just using the fact that these digits must sum to 5 to whittle down the 8, 11s and the 10 cages using the diagonals, and I assume these cages as a restriction. Congratulations to the people who do it that way, but I think it is much easier if you just extend that logic out a little and find the very quick break-in on that. That is my puzzle trench run. There is one more puzzle coming in my diagonal series, which is currently up for testing. It is probably the most complicated puzzle in the series, and I will hopefully have a video for you on that one maybe in a week. I need that one to go through some thorough testing. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you back again for more. Please feel free to leave comments if you've got any feedback about the way that I do my videos, and feel free to reach out to me as Bremster on the CTC Discord server, and I've left my email address in the description below. Thank you very much for watching.